Hey there, traveler. You've made it through another day. It's time to let go of the noise, the notifications, the deadlines, and gently drift away into something ancient, something timeless, something mythical. Tonight, you're not just falling asleep. You're falling into a dream older than civilization itself. You're about to wander through marble temples, fly beside gods, and stand in awe of creatures carved from stars and shadows. But don't worry, you're safe, tucked in, warm. This is a story to ease your mind, quiet your thoughts, and carry you across the soft waters of sleep. Before we begin, if you enjoy these nighttime journeys into the past, consider leaving a like, subscribing to this channel, and telling me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from and what time is it right now? Now take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and let your mind slow down, because our story begins with nothing. Chapter 1. The First Breath of Existence. In the beginning, before time, before light, before form, there was only one thing: chaos. Not chaos in the way we usually think of it, not noise or confusion or disorder, but a vast, yawning emptiness, a silence so complete it could almost be mistaken for sleep itself. And from that void came the first beings, not gods in golden armor, not heroes with swords and shields, but forces, essences, ideas with shape. Gaia, the earth; Uranus, the sky; Nyx, the night; Erebus, the darkness; Tartarus, the abyss; and Eros, love, the gentle gravity that draws all things together. There was no war yet, no ambition, just the slow emergence of form. The earth stretched out her limbs. The sky arched above her, wrapping her in stars. And so creation began. Chapter 2. Birth of the Titans. From the union of Gaia and Uranus came the Titans, great beings who ruled before the Olympian gods. They were massive, majestic, timeless as mountains and moons. Cronus, the youngest, was cunning and cold. Rhea, his sister and wife, was nurturing, patient, and strong. Uranus, the sky, feared the power of his children, and so he buried them, pushed them deep into the earth, into their mother's womb, Gaia herself. But Gaia would not let her children suffer in silence. She forged a sickle of flint and gave it to Cronus, and in the darkness between earth and sky, Cronus rose against his father. With one swing, the age of the Titans began. Chapter 3. A Prophecy of Rebellion. Cronus took the throne. He ruled the cosmos with Rhea at his side, and for a time the world was still. But prophecies have a way of echoing. It was said that one of Cronus's own children would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown his father. So, when Rhea gave birth to their children, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Cronus swallowed each one whole, one by one. He devoured them in silence. But when the sixth child was born, a boy named Zeus, Rhea could bear no more. She wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and handed it to Cronus. And Cronus, blinded by fear, swallowed the stone. Zeus was taken far away, raised in secret, hidden in caves, protected by mountain nymphs and goat spirits. And when he grew strong enough, he returned. Chapter 4. The War of Gods and Titans. Zeus tricked Cronus into vomiting up his siblings. One by one they emerged, fully grown, divine, burning with fury. Together they rose against the Titans. A war shook the heavens, a 10-year storm called the Titanomachy. Mountains crumbled, oceans boiled, stars fell. The Olympians were fierce, but they were not alone. Zeus freed the Cyclopes, giant craftsmen with a single blazing eye, who gifted him thunder and lightning. He freed the Hecatoncheires, monstrous beings with 100 arms, who hurled mountains like stones. And in the end, the Titans fell. Cronus and his brothers were cast into Tartarus, the deepest part of the underworld. And Zeus, mighty, brilliant Zeus, became king of the gods. The storm had passed. The sky was quiet once more. The war was over. And from the ashes of the Titans' fall, a new order emerged. Olympus, a mountain taller than clouds, wrapped in eternal sunlight, where no mortal wind could ever reach, became the home of the new gods. Zeus stood at the summit, crowned in lightning. From his throne he watched over both heavens and earth. But he did not rule alone. By his side were his brothers and sisters, each a god in their own right, each with their own domain. Chapter 5. The Olympians. Let's walk quietly through the marble halls of Olympus, where immortal footsteps echo softly on golden floors. Zeus, the sky, the storm, the king, his voice was thunder, his justice swift, yet his heart was never still, drawn to beauty, desire, and chaos below. Hera, his wife and queen, the goddess of marriage, protector of vows. She bore the weight of betrayal with silent dignity and hidden rage. Poseidon, god of the seas, with every crash of the waves he spoke. His trident shook the earth, and horses galloped through foam at his command. Hades, ruler of the underworld, he did not dwell on Olympus. His realm was quiet, shadowed, eternal. Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Every stalk of wheat bowed to her. Her grief could wither lands. Her joy could feed empires. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, the most gentle of them all, she tended the eternal flame, a symbol of warmth, home, and peace. But that was only the first generation. The Olympians grew in number. and in story. Chapter 6. The Second Flame. From Zeus came Athena, born not of womb but of mind. She sprang fully formed from his forehead, armored and wise, goddess of strategy, cities, and crafts. Wherever logic met courage, Athena stood. Then came Apollo, god of the sun, music, poetry, and prophecy. His twin sister, Artemis, ruled the moon, the hunt, and the untouched forests. They danced in perfect balance, golden light by day, silver silence by night. Ares, the blood-soaked god of war, brutal, impulsive, fierce, feared even by his kin. Aphrodite, born of sea foam and divine tension. Wherever hearts longed and beauty bloomed, she smiled. Hephaestus, the smith of the gods, born twisted and thrown from Olympus. Yet he forged wonders, weapons, automatons, palaces of bronze. Hermes, the messenger, fast, clever, mischievous. He danced between worlds with winged sandals and a silver tongue. And Dionysus, god of wine, madness, and sacred ecstasy, the bringer of joy, and the breaker of walls between mortal and divine, each of them divine, each of them flawed. For the gods of Olympus were not perfect. They were mirrors of us, powerful, emotional, unpredictable, and they watched humanity with a gaze that could bless or destroy. Chapter 7. Prometheus and the Gift of Fire. One Titan had not fought in the war. One had sided with Zeus, not out of loyalty, but out of love for mortals. Prometheus. He shaped men from clay. He gave them upright form, thought, and purpose. But more than anything, he gave them fire. The gods were furious. Fire was meant only for the divine. To give it to mortals, to give them warmth, power, and the beginnings of civilization, was treason. So Zeus punished him. Prometheus was chained to a lonely rock far from earth or Olympus, and every day an eagle came to eat his liver, and every night it grew back, again and again without end. All because he loved us. Prometheus, the silent guardian, suffered so humanity could dream. Chapter 8. Pandora's Box. But balance must be kept. To punish mankind for accepting fire, Zeus crafted a different gift. He ordered Hephaestus to shape a woman of stunning beauty. Each god gave her a gift: charm, music, weaving, grace, and curiosity. Her name was Pandora. She was given a jar, a sealed vessel, and told never to open it. But curiosity is a flame that flickers in all hearts. One day she opened it, and out came all the evils of the world: sickness, famine, war, greed, jealousy, pain. And just before the jar emptied completely, she closed it. Inside, one thing remained: hope. The world above was bright, ruled by gods of wind, sea, and sky. But beneath the soil, beyond the last light of the sun, another realm stirred, a place not of punishment alone, but of stillness, of endings, of memory. It was called the Underworld, and its king was Hades. Chapter 9. The Realm Below. Hades was not evil. He did not torment souls. He was just quiet, reserved, a ruler of shadows who kept the balance between life and what follows. His kingdom lay beneath the roots of the world, guarded by rivers, sealed by gates, and patrolled by a monstrous hound named Cerberus, with 3 heads and eyes that never closed. To reach this land of the dead, souls had to cross the river Styx, a black, sluggish current that no living mortal could pass unaided. There they met Charon, the silent ferryman, who would take them across in exchange for a coin, often placed beneath the tongue of the deceased. Chapter 10. The 3 Judges. Once across, the soul was brought before 3 judges, Minos, wise and solemn, Rhadamanthus, strict and thoughtful, Aeacus, quiet and just. Together they listened, measured a life not by wealth or power, but by choices, kindness, honesty, and based on that judgment, the soul would be sent to one of 3 places. Chapter 11. The 3 Lands of the Dead. Most were sent to the Asphodel Meadows, a gray, quiet field where ordinary souls wandered, remembering their lives in soft echoes. Those who had been cruel, treacherous, or monstrous were cast into Tartarus, not the same prison where the Titans lay, but a deeper, darker place, where punishment was poetic, eternal, and symbolic. There Sisyphus rolled his boulder up a hill again and again. Tantalus stood in a pool of water he could never drink, beneath fruit he could never reach. But for the few, the brave, the virtuous, the truly noble, there was Elysium, a paradise of golden fields, gentle breezes, music in the trees. There heroes danced, poets sang, and the sun never set. Some say if a soul was pure enough, it could be reborn, and if it lived 3 perfect lives, it would be allowed to stay in Elysium forever. Chapter 12. Persephone and the Changing Seasons. But the underworld was not all shadow. There was one who brought color to that place of gray. Persephone, daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest, bright, joyful, full of life. Hades saw her, and he fell in love, and so he took her. The earth split, and Persephone vanished beneath it. Her mother wept. She searched the world, and nothing would grow in her sorrow. The gods begged Hades to return her, and at last he agreed, but only part way, because Persephone had eaten 6 seeds of a pomegranate in his realm. She was bound to it. So for 6 months she returns to her mother, and the world blossoms. But for 6 months she returns to Hades, and the world sleeps. That is how the Greeks explained the seasons, life and its quiet pause, death and its promise of return. Chapter 13. Orpheus and Eurydice. Even the dead can be loved. Once there was a poet, Orpheus, whose music made birds pause in flight and rivers slow their current. He loved a woman, Eurydice, whose smile lit his every note. But death came too soon. Grief hollowed his voice, and for the first time the world fell silent to his song. So Orpheus descended. He crossed the Styx, faced Cerberus, stood before Hades and Persephone, and sang. And for the first time, the underworld wept. They gave him a chance. He could lead Eurydice out of the realm of the dead, but only if he never looked back. Step by step he climbed, and she followed, silent, shadow soft. But as the light of the living world reached his face, he turned, and she was gone. Some say he never sang again. Others say his music became so sad it could move the stars. The gods watched from Olympus, but the earth below pulsed with stories of its own. For in the age after creation, after war and underworld, there came mortals, men and women, whose courage echoed through time. These were the heroes, born of gods and mortals, guided by fate, tested by monsters and pride. Tonight, as you rest, you'll walk beside them, not to fight, but to listen, to feel the rhythm of their footsteps, the weight of their trials, and the hush that follows their names. Chapter 14. Heracles and the 12 Labors. His name was Heracles, though the Romans would call him Hercules. Son of Zeus and the mortal Alcmene, he was strong beyond measure, but his strength came with sorrow. Driven mad by Hera's hatred, he did something terrible. To cleanse his soul, he was given 12 impossible tasks, each one darker than the last. He fought the Nemean lion, whose golden hide could not be pierced. He slew the Lernaean hydra, whose heads regrew in pairs. He captured the Cyrenaean hind faster than the wind. He wrestled the Erymanthian boar from snow-covered peaks. He cleaned the Augean stables in a single day, redirecting rivers. He drove away the Stymphalian birds, their feathers sharp as knives. He captured the Cretan bull, wild and white-eyed. He stole the mares of Diomedes, who feasted on human flesh. He took the girdle of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. He herded the cattle of Geryon, guarded by a two-headed dog. He stole the golden apples of the Hesperides, guarded by a serpent. And finally, he descended into Hades and brought back Cerberus. Each labor carved him deeper into legend, each one a lesson in strength, humility, and the burden of power. Chapter 15. Perseus and the Gorgon before Heracles. There was Perseus. He too was the child of Zeus, and he too was tested by fate. His task, to slay Medusa, a gorgon with serpents for hair, and a gaze that turned men to stone. But Perseus was clever. He did not face her head on. With gifts from the gods, a mirrored shield, winged sandals, and a curved blade, he crept into the Gorgon's cave. He watched only through the shield's reflection. He struck once, cleanly, and from her blood came Pegasus, the winged horse. Perseus carried Medusa's head back across the sky, and with it he saved a maiden, Andromeda, chained to a rock as sacrifice. He married her, and the stars remember them still. Chapter 16. Theseus and the Labyrinth. Then came Theseus, prince of Athens, clever, bold, restless. When the island of Crete demanded sacrifices, he volunteered. Below the palace there was a maze, a labyrinth, built by Daedalus, and filled with darkness. At its center roamed the Minotaur, a beast with the body of a man and the head of a bull. But Theseus had a secret. Ariadne, the king's daughter, gave him a thread. He tied it to the entrance, entered the maze, fought in silence. And when the beast fell, he followed the thread back to light. But on his journey home, he forgot to change his sails from black to white. His father, waiting on a cliff, saw the dark sails, and threw himself into the sea. To this day, that sea is called the Aegean. Chapter 17. Jason and the Argonauts. Now close your eyes a little tighter. You're boarding a ship, the Argo, a vessel blessed by gods, built by magic, and filled with heroes. At its helm, Jason, his quest to retrieve the golden fleece, a symbol of kingship and divine favor. He gathered a crew, the Argonauts, which included Heracles, Orpheus, and others whose names sing in old songs. They faced harpies, clashing rocks, fire-breathing bulls, and sleepless dragons. But Jason's true ally was Medea, a sorceress, a princess, a storm in a human shape. With her spells he claimed the fleece, but their story would not end in joy, for Jason betrayed her, and Medea's vengeance became legend, whispered in fear across centuries. Chapter 18. Atalanta, the Swift One. More, before sleep takes you fully. A woman, faster than the wind, raised by bears, wielder of a bow and arrow. Her name was Atalanta. She vowed to never marry, unless a suitor could beat her in a foot race. Many tried, none succeeded, until one man, Hippomenes, used golden apples from Aphrodite. He dropped them as they ran, and Atalanta, curious, paused each time. He won. They married, but in their joy they forgot to honor the gods, and were punished, turned into lions, forever together, but never able to look one another in the eye. The wind is soft tonight. Let it carry you back to a time before empires, when pride and prophecy danced together, and the fall of a city began with a single golden apple. This is the beginning of the Trojan War, not with swords, not with fire, but with beauty, jealousy, and fate. Chapter 19, The Apple of Discord. It began at a wedding. The gods had gathered to celebrate the union of Peleus, a mortal king, and Thetis, a sea nymph. All were invited, except Eris, goddess of strife. Angered by her exclusion, she arrived unannounced, and threw into the crowd a golden apple. Upon it was written 3 words: "To the fairest." Hera, Athena, Aphrodite. 3 goddesses reached for it at once, and so began a divine argument. Zeus refused to judge them. Instead, he sent them to a mortal, a Trojan prince named Paris. Each goddess offered him a gift. Hera promised power. Athena promised wisdom and victory. Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chose Aphrodite, and so fate turned its wheels. Chapter 20, Helen of Sparta. The most beautiful woman in the world was Helen, Queen of Sparta, daughter of Zeus, wife of King Menelaus. With Aphrodite's blessing, Paris sailed to Greece, and Helen fell in love, or was made to. One night she left her kingdom behind and followed Paris to Troy. When Menelaus awoke, he called upon his brother, mighty Agamemnon, and together they summoned the kings of Greece. Among them, Odysseus, clever and reluctant; Ajax, tall and fearless; Diomedes, bold and sharp; and Achilles, young, invincible, destined for glory. 1,000 ships were launched, the wind howled, and war rode across the sea. Chapter 21, 9 years of siege. Troy stood tall behind high walls, and the Greeks camped on its shores for 9 long years. Battles raged, but neither side could win. Gods took sides. Hera and Athena fought for the Greeks. Aphrodite and Apollo protected Troy. Zeus watched, weighing fate with quiet judgment. Heroes fell. New names rose. Patroclus, gentle and loyal, wore Achilles' armor and died in his place. Achilles, furious with grief, returned to the battle. His wrath shook the earth. He found Hector, prince of Troy, the city's strongest defender, and slew him beneath the gates, then dragged his body behind his chariot again and again. But even Achilles could not escape fate. Chapter 22, The Death of Achilles. The Greeks pressed on, but without Achilles they faltered. His mother, Thetis, had dipped him in the river Styx, making him invulnerable, all but his heel. Paris, with Apollo's help, loosed an arrow. It struck that one place, and Achilles fell. The greatest warrior of his time silenced. He was burned on a grand pyre, and his ashes mixed with those of his beloved Patroclus. Even the gods mourned. Chapter 23. The Wooden Horse. 10 years had passed, and still Troy stood. Then Odysseus had an idea, a gift, a trap, a trick. The Greeks built a giant horse of wood and left it outside the gates. They sailed away, pretending to surrender. The Trojans rejoiced, dragged the horse inside their city. That night, as they slept, Greek soldiers hidden within emerged. They opened the gates, and the army returned. Troy burned, its towers crumbled, its people scattered. Helen was taken back to Sparta, but no one truly returned the same. Chapter 24. Echoes after the fire. The war had ended, but its shadow lingered. Odysseus would wander 10 years more, through storms, monsters, and islands of dream and death. Aeneas, a Trojan, would escape with his son and journey to Italy to sow the seeds of a new empire. The gods grew silent. The age of heroes faded. But the stories, they never slept. They became constellations, statues, whispers in marble halls. And now, they're dreams drifting softly into your sleep. You've walked among gods. You've stood beside heroes. You've witnessed cities fall and stars be born. But now we slow down. We leave the battlefields behind and drift into the quiet spaces where myths become meaning and stories become soul. Chapter 25. The Three Fates. Even the gods bowed to them. They were older than Olympus, older than time. 3 sisters, Clotho, who spun the thread of life, Lachesis, who measured its length, Atropos, who cut it. They moved silently, without anger, without mercy. Even Zeus could not command them. They didn't punish, they didn't judge, they simply wove. And so every life, from shepherd to king, followed its path, until the thread was snipped. Chapter 26. Mount Olympus grows quiet. The gods remained, but they no longer walked among men as they once had. The world changed. Philosophers began to wonder not just how the world worked, but why. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, mortal minds seeking divine truths. They looked inward, into reason, into thought, into soul. The myths remained, not just as faith, but as mirrors, reflections of our hopes, our fears, our endless questions. Why do we suffer? What makes us noble? What is love? What is justice? The Greeks did not always answer, but they asked beautifully. Chapter 27. The Oracle of Delphi. High upon the slopes of Mount Parnassus, there was a place where gods still whispered. Delphi. There the priestess, the Pythia, inhaled vapors from the earth and spoke in riddles. Kings, generals, poets, all journeyed there to ask their questions. But the answers were never direct, because the Greeks believed wisdom is not what is given, it's what we discover in silence. Chapter 28. The Immortality of Myth. The gods may have faded, the temples may have crumbled, but the stories, they endured, in marble, in verse, in memory. Zeus still rules the sky in our imagination. Athena still guards the thinkers. Prometheus still burns with quiet defiance. They live because we remember, and every time we speak their names or dream their dreams, they rise again. Chapter 29. From Myth to Memory. Close your eyes now. The olive trees sway gently in the breeze. The Aegean Sea hums beneath a purple sky. Somewhere a lyre plays a soft tune older than time. You're not in Greece. You're in a place where history and sleep meet, where gods are not just gods, but pieces of us. Each myth you've heard tonight is part of something larger, a story not just of lightning bolts and lions, but of longing, of courage, of failure, of love. And as you drift now, warm, still, safe, you join that tradition, the storytellers, the dreamers, the keepers of myth. As you lie there, still and quiet, the world of myth softens. No more war, no more thrones, only reflections of hearts, of change, of what it means to feel. Greek mythology is not only about gods and battles, it's about transformation, the shifting of form to match the truth inside. Let's drift through these tales, where mortals became stars and emotions took shape in petals, wings, and stone. Chapter 30. Narcissus and Echo. There was once a youth named Narcissus, so beautiful that even flowers turned toward him. But he was proud. He rejected all who loved him. Among them was Echo, a nymph cursed to only repeat what others said. She watched him from the shadows, longing to speak, longing to be heard, but he turned away. One day, Narcissus leaned over a pool of still water and saw himself. He fell in love with the reflection, reached out to touch it, but it vanished. Day by day he wasted away until he became a flower, the narcissus blooming by the water's edge. And Echo, she faded, until only her voice remained, a whisper in valleys, a ghost in caves. Chapter 31. Daphne and Apollo. Apollo, god of light, once mocked Eros, the god of love. So Eros crafted 2 arrows, one gold to inspire desire, one lead to repel it. He struck Apollo with gold, and Daphne, a forest nymph, with lead. Apollo burned with love. Daphne fled in fear. He chased her through woods and rivers, and just before he could catch her, she prayed to the earth, and the earth answered. Her feet rooted, her arms reached toward the sky, her hair became leaves. She became a laurel tree. Apollo wept, and took her leaves as a crown. To this day, the laurel is worn by poets and victors, a symbol of love that could not be touched. Chapter 32, Arachne and the Web of Pride. In a village once lived Arachne, a mortal girl who wove with hands of silk and dreams. Her tapestries were so beautiful, so flawless, that she claimed herself better than even Athena, goddess of crafts. Athena came, disguised, and challenged her to a contest. 2 looms, 2 weavers, 1 truth. Arachne's tapestry was perfect, but it told of the gods' flaws, their cruelty, their pride, their mistakes. Athena was furious, but she saw the skill. So instead of destroying Arachne, she transformed her into the first spider, to weave forever, thread by thread. And so, even in silence, the story warns us, pride can lift and break. Chapter 33, The Birth of Dionysus. Now let's walk with someone softer, wilder. Dionysus, god of wine, of madness, of theater, of ecstasy. He was not born easily. His mother, Semele, was a mortal who asked to see Zeus in his full glory. He warned her, but she insisted, and when she saw him, she burned to ash. But Zeus saved the child in her womb. He sewed him into his own thigh, and from that strange birth came Dionysus. He wandered the world, brought vines to barren lands, laughter to sorrow, madness to logic. He was joy and destruction, celebration and surrender, and his followers, the Maenads, danced through the forests in a trance, tearing away what was false, leaving only truth. He taught that sometimes, to find ourselves, we must let go. Chapter 34, Selene and Endymion. Now, close your eyes even tighter. High in the sky, Selene, the moon goddess, rode her silver chariot through the stars. One night she saw Endymion, a shepherd sleeping beneath the heavens. He was so beautiful that she stopped time. She watched him night after night and fell in love. So she made a wish that he would sleep forever, unaging, unmoving, so she could always gaze upon him, and so he sleeps still, somewhere in a cave, forever young, forever still, and the moon still visits him each night, like now, as she watches you sleep. Not all battles end with a sword. Some end with a longing to return, to a wife waiting beneath olive trees, to a son who grew up in absence, to the sound of waves that whisper home. Tonight we drift with Odysseus, the clever king of Ithaca, who left for Troy, and wandered the seas for 10 more years. This is not a tale of conquest. It's a story of delay, of detours and dreams, of a man lost in time. Chapter 35. The Departure. The war was over. Troy was ashes, and Odysseus, with his ships and his men, turned toward home. But Poseidon, god of the sea, was angry. Odysseus had blinded his son, a giant, and so the sea did not forgive. Each wave pulled him farther. Each island tested his will. Chapter 36. The Lotus Eaters. The first stop was Soft, the land of the Lotus Eaters, a place where flowers grew like dreams, and eating one made you forget your name, your purpose, your home. His men tasted the petals, smiled, lay down to sleep forever. But Odysseus pulled them back, tied them to the ships, and sailed away, weeping for their bliss. Chapter 37. The Cyclops. Next came a cave, dark, echoing, home to a Cyclops named Polyphemus, a towering creature with a single eye, who trapped Odysseus and his men. They were cattle to him, meat, nothing more. But Odysseus told him a lie. My name is Nobody. And when the time came, they burned out the Cyclops' eye with a wooden stake. He screamed, "Nobody has hurt me," and no help came. They escaped beneath the bellies of sheep and fled to sea once more. But Polyphemus cursed him, and Poseidon listened. Chapter 38. The Island of Aeolus. They reached the floating island of Aeolus, keeper of the winds. He gave Odysseus a bag, filled with every storm. "Do not open it," he warned. But as they neared Ithaca, his men grew curious. Thinking it gold, they tore the bag open, and the winds howled, blew them back, far from home. Odysseus watched Ithaca vanish, a dream lost on the horizon. Chapter 39. Circe the Enchantress. Then an island of illusions. Circe lived there, a sorceress with hair like dusk. She turned men into swine with a whisper. Odysseus resisted. With help from Hermes, she welcomed him, feasted with him, loved him. A year passed in a moment, but at last he remembered his journey, and she helped him go on. But first she sent him to the land of the dead. Chapter 40. The Land of the Dead. Odysseus sailed to the edge of the world, there where the sea ended and shadows thickened. He called to the spirits. He met his mother. She wept and told him of his home, of a wife still faithful and a son waiting. He met the ghost of Tiresias the prophet, and he learned his journey was not yet done, but he would return if he could resist temptation. Chapter 41. The Sirens. Onward they sailed, and came to a place where the air shimmered with song. The sirens sang not with joy, but with knowledge. They promised to reveal every secret, every truth. Their song pulled sailors into the sea. Odysseus had his men plug their ears with wax, but he tied himself to the mast. He listened, cried, struggled, but the ropes held, and they passed the danger. Sometimes we must hear temptation, but not follow it. You've traveled far with him, across oceans, through storms, past temptation and despair. And now Odysseus is almost home, but the sea does not surrender its prisoners easily. There are still trials to face, and then, finally, there will be peace. Chapter 42, Scylla and Charybdis. The strait was narrow, too narrow. On one side, Scylla, a creature with 6 serpent heads. She plucked men from decks like fish from water. On the other, Charybdis, a whirlpool that drank the sea and spit it back in thunder. There was no safe path, so Odysseus sailed between. He lost men, but passed through, and the sea, for a while, fell silent. Chapter 43, The Island of the Sun. Then came the island of Helios, the sun god. Odysseus was warned, do not touch the sacred cattle, no matter how hungry you grow. He begged his men to obey, but hunger whispers louder than fear. They slaughtered the golden herd. When they left, the sea rebelled. A storm broke their ship. All were lost, except Odysseus. Floating alone, clinging to wreckage, he drifted for days until he reached a final island. Chapter 44, Calypso's Island. Her name was Calypso, a goddess, alone on an island of green. She saved him, sheltered him, loved him, offered him immortality. But he refused, for though her island was paradise, it was not Ithaca. And so, after 7 years, the gods took pity. They sent Hermes, and Calypso, with sadness, let him go. Odysseus built a raft and sailed again. Chapter 45, The Stranger at the Gates. At last, the shores of Ithaca. But after 20 years, home did not recognize him. He came as a beggar, worn, silent. Only his dog, old and gray, knew him and died with joy. He found his palace filled with men, suitors who tried to steal his throne and his queen. His son, Telemachus, grown tall, welcomed him with tears, and together they planned. Chapter 46, The Bow and the Bed. Penelope, his wife, had waited, woven and unwoven, a shroud for years, delaying, hoping. Now she set a test. Whoever can string Odysseus's bow and shoot through 12 axe heads shall be my husband. No man could, until the beggar stepped forward. He strung it with ease, released the arrow, and then revealed himself. The suitors fell. The throne was reclaimed. And Penelope wept, not because she feared him, but because she knew it was truly him. Chapter 47. The Long Sleep. That night they spoke of scars, of dreams, of years lost and found again. Their bed, carved from a living olive tree, had never been moved. It was their truth. And finally, Odysseus slept, not on a deck, not on a beach, but in his home, with peace in his heart and love beside him. The sea was behind him, the gods were silent, and the stars watched gently from above. The sea is quiet now, the winds have settled, the gods have grown still, and yet something ancient remains, not in temples, not in scrolls, but in us. Because Greek mythology isn't just old stories, it's a map of the human heart, drawn in stars, sung in shadows, etched in the silence between dreams. Chapter 48. The Power of Story. Why do we still speak their names? Zeus, Hera, Athena, Apollo. Because they aren't just characters, they're pieces of us. When we feel torn between reason and rage, we are Ares and Athena. When we fall in love and don't know why, we are touched by Aphrodite. When we create something beautiful, Hephaestus guides our hands. When we trick our way out of trouble, Hermes smiles somewhere nearby. These gods live inside the choices we make. The myths are mirrors. Chapter 49. Time's Gentle Hand. The Greeks told these tales in whispers and song, by firelight, on stages, in marble halls, and each retelling made them stronger, not because they changed the world outside, but because they helped shape the world within. They made fear beautiful. They gave sorrow a name. They turned death into a journey and made fate feel fair. Chapter 50. The Last Temple. You may never climb Mount Olympus. You may never sail past sirens or walk through golden palaces in the sky. But you don't need to, because the last temple is here, in your memory, your imagination, your sleep. Tonight you built it, stone by stone, with every heartbeat, every breath. And now it stands, a quiet shrine beneath the stars. You've walked its halls, lit its fires, heard its stories, and you are welcome there, always. Final words, sleep, dreamer. So now, let the myths rest with you. Let Heracles set down his club. Let Athena close her eyes. Let Odysseus sigh into his pillow. You've traveled far, through creation and chaos, love and loss, song and silence. You've wandered through legend and found stillness. And now it's time. Let your own story pause. Let sleep rise around you like a soft, warm tide. And know You are safe. You are home. You are part of the myth now. Good night. Shh. There's nothing more to know tonight. No more gods to name. No more monsters to face. No more maps to follow. Only stillness now. Only the hush between heartbeats. Let it hold you. Breathe in. You are on a hill. Warm stones beneath you. The scent of thyme and olive trees in the air. Somewhere, a lyre plays one slow golden note. Breathe out. The sun has set, but the sky glows soft, like wine poured through clouds. A gentle voice is telling stories, but it's far away now, and you don't need to listen anymore. Let go of your thoughts, of your name, of this day. You are not in your room. You are not in your bed. You are in a garden beneath the stars. Statues sleep among the vines. Columns lean in silence. A fountain sings a song without words. And as you close your eyes fully, you walk between worlds. Each footstep is softer than the last, until you are only breath, only warmth, only quiet. The myths fade into mist. The gods return to their mountains, and you are free. Tonight, sleep is your temple. You are the hero, resting. You are the poet, dreaming. You are the child, safe. No endings, no beginnings, just this moment, still, soft, sacred.